Okay, we're live. I love being live, especially love being live with you, Lynn.
Thanks. That's really nice. I love being live with you, especially in person.
Yeah,
It's fun that we get to do that a couple times a year. So I'm
I know.
excited to see you.
I'm looking forward to it. So today we have a special guest, and guys, stay tuned because we're going to be talking about just creating a really good rhythm with your business. I've got a lot of personal examples to give regarding what we're going to talk about today, but we have Lyn Askin here. He is a good friend. We've known each other for a while. I'm really pumped to have you on the podcast here. He's a certified EOS implementer with EOS Worldwide. Now, a lot of people I talk to, they know what that is, but for those that do not know what EOS is, can you tell us what it is?
Sure. Thanks for having me again. This is really fun. Great to spend time with you. But EOS it stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And what it is a simple set of tools. And maybe I describe it as a way of running your company so the whole team's on the same page. You're all headed in the same direction with real accountability. You would never build a deck without a plan or proper footings and a build sequence. EOS is the blueprint or the framing for your business instead of just for the deck, right? And so most owners can build anything, but have no plan for the company itself. It's not theory. It's not magic beans. It's not magic bullets. It is just six simple key components that we strengthen to help you strengthen your vision, your people, your data, your issues, your process, and traction.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I have so much to say and I don't want to get in the way here, but it's like a system for accountability too, you
Yeah,
know.
one of the ways that we describe it is it's a way to manage all of your human capital. We've got a lot of things going on in our business, but it's really good. Uh, it's a system and a framework that you don't have to invent, and most of us are doing that in our businesses. We're inventing or reinventing all the different ways we do all the different things, but this framework and many like it are basically built already for you, and we just follow a simple set of real world practical tools that help you get more of what you want from your business.
Yeah. Well, we're going to dig deep, so stay tuned. I think that everyone's going to leave with some practical advice. And I was jamming with Lynn before this, and I'm like, it's our guys' busy season. My goal is really just to get y'all to stop for a second. And if you've created a lot of chaos for yourself, sometimes you don't realize that you have too. You're just happy that you're busy. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't really want to be busy. I mean, I do. I want to make good money and support my family and the clients that I serve, and I want to make it easier as I get older too. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but story time. I like stories. And Lynn, I think you have a really great story. Both Lynn and I, we run our businesses based off of things that we've experienced in our lives to try and make things better and be able to help other folks. So really would love for you to tell your story, in particular what happened in 2020 that changed the way that you looked at your business.
I will try and give you a condensed version of this. There's a lot of moving parts here. I will start by saying that I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I grew up in a house with a lot of love, but not a lot of money. And for all of the things that I wanted in life, I had to earn them. So did a lot of things really early in my life to earn money. Started a mobile disc jockey business in my teens. Had a newspaper route when I was 8 or 9 years old. Started building computers in my early 20s. Launched one of the first online auctions in 1996. I built my first e-commerce store in 1997. And I think I probably built my first website for someone else probably in 97 or 98. And what that did was that created, 26 years of me running a digital marketing agency. And, we did well, but we had the same challenges that everybody else has. We had a lack of clear direction or clear vision about who we were and who we served. Maybe a lackluster team commitment, I would say. And that's probably because of my lack of vision and leadership there. And then, of course, we had just maybe poor discipline and accountability all the way to the top. You run a business and you want to be a nice person and you want to believe in people, and sometimes it is hard to hold people accountable. But despite all of that, April, we had a pretty good business, lived a pretty good life. But let's go to 2020. I think it was October of 2020. We had a hurricane pass through the town that I lived. Oddly enough, ripped down a bunch of fence in the backyard. And of course, I go out there to do that myself, to put it back up, and I just couldn't do it. I was struggling. And all I could say to myself was, God, Lyn, how did you let yourself get this out of shape? You're so lazy. Why can't you do this? And then I collapsed in my yard, and I had a massive bilateral pulmonary embolism. And if you don't know what that is, that's basically I had a blood clot in my leg from trying to exercise, trying to get in shape, and it turned into I filled both of my lungs with blood clots, and it cut off this flow of oxygen to my heart. And so as I laid there in my yard dying, all I could think about was, what kind of mess did I just leave my wife and son? My wife is going to have to go to my office. She'll lock the door. She'll fire the team. She'll lose the clients, lose everything that I'd been working towards. And that would have been my legacy. That would have been what I left my family. Now, to be fair, I had some life insurance, but I don't know how that works. And I don't know if she's going to have to fight. I won't be around to fight for her. I don't know if she'll get it. I don't know what's going to happen. But that was my thought as I was laying in the grass, and then ultimately the ICU dying, is that I didn't have a business. I had a job. That business would not have run without me had I died that day. And had I died that day, my business would have died with me. And I think that was the wake-up call of all wake-up calls. Obviously, I spent some time in the ICU, spent several months recovering from that, got healthy again. But then I went on a mission to fix my business. I knew I had to build something different and better, and something that could run without me, and something that was sellable. Because when I got healthy again, the first thought was, oh my gosh, I've got to sell this business. This thing's killing me. And I'm not sure if you know this or not, April, but you can't sell a job. Nobody wants to buy a job. And so, I touched everything in that business. I wasn't able to even step out of the day-to-day, rarely to, even small family vacations were stressful. Just couldn't get away, because I knew, there were things that couldn't happen without me. And so I went on a mission to fix that, and I found EOS. And I had bought the book Traction by Gino Wickman. I bought that book in 2014, and I read it, and I thought, well, that would be nice, but it looks hard, and I don't think I can do that. So I put it on the shelf with all the rest of the books. And then, again, early 2021, I needed it. I needed it badly, and I tried to self-implement it, and then that wasn't very successful for us. So I hired a professional implementer. And I will tell you, April, the transformation in our business was remarkable. We 3x'd our revenue, we 7x'd our profits. We went from 10 employees to 27. I was able to take myself out of the day-to-day operations of the business, have a much better life, build something for my family. And during that period, I just fell in love with the EOS, fell in love with the process, fell in love with the system, decided I wanted to become an EOS implementer. I was going to do both. I was going to run my agency and be an EOS implementer. I just loved it so much. And, ultimately I got an offer on my business on the agency that just made sense. And so I sold my agency, became a full-time EOS implementer, been doing this now for 3.5 years. Have now completed 252 full-day sessions with companies, and I love what I do.
Yeah, I'm an advocate of the Lyn Askin. Yeah, Lyn helped us a lot. And I'd say, man, I just really I really value the intangible things a lot. And one of the things that I never really expected when implementing EOS the right way is how empowered my team felt and how it really helped with our culture. And instead of me being accountable for everything, it gave the people that I selected to be on my leadership team ownership. And people want that. I mean, you don't realize how much people want to grow and how you could actually be holding them back by not giving them, ownership of certain things, and it was a really beautiful thing, and it really helped me as the business owner be able to get out of my way and stop running a business based off of what I thought was the best when, let's face it, it's not like I've owned a million businesses and done it, for 50 some years, right? Like, not that wise. And so it really helped me, put a system in place that helped our business scale. Without that, I don't think we would be where we are today.
I think entrepreneurship is lonely. I think that we, as the visionaries or the owners of the company, feel like even if we have a team, I think we feel alone a lot. I think we don't feel like people, I don't think it's possible for people to love it as much as we do or care as much as we do. But I'm here to tell you that when you decide to put a framework in place that empowers your team and gets them involved in the vision of the company, builds the core values around the team that exists, lets them be a part of creating the vision of the plan. I'm here to tell you, your team wants and needs this. They want systems to help themselves grow. And to be fair, we have to, as entrepreneurs and leaders, we've got to build a business in which people can see a future for themselves. Because if they can't see a future for themselves here, they will leave. And EOS helps you do that.
Yeah, which is one of the biggest challenges that I see deck builders come to me for, is that, they've kind of realized, wow, my knees are starting to hurt a little bit. What the heck am I going to do? I can't keep doing this, and it's kind of rough because they've had the business for sometimes 20, 30 years, and it's almost like they're starting from scratch trying to figure out how to create a business that could, that could sell. So we've talked very generally here, but for let's get into the logistics a little bit so people could more so understand, what this is. Now, EOS is a framework for your business. What is, a framework? Well, processes and SOPs, some tech, software, things like that, obviously people, but how is EOS different from just kind of having all of that?
EOS is not really software. SOPs and software are tools, but EOS is the operating system that makes them actually work, gets the people right. So one of the things that we believe in EOS is that as entrepreneurs, we're busy. We're busy people. We tend to be wrestling and somehow I think we sort of like it. I think we tend to be wrestling with about 136 issues simultaneously, right? That's normal for us. And it feels weird when we're not. And so that's pretty normal. But with EOS, if you can strengthen just 6 key components of your business, those 136 issues start to fall into place because they're really just symptoms of a root cause. And so if we can get to the root of the problem, build the right systems in place for you to build your vision, to have the right people in the right seats, to run your business on data, real facts and figures and numbers and not just emotions. And when you get your vision component right, your people component right, and your data component right, your business becomes a little more transparent. And so we help you get really, really good at solving the issues that start to pop up, because all of those problems and challenges and obstacles start to surface. We help you get really good at solving those issues. We help you get your processes in place. We got to systemize your core processes. And then we give you what we call traction, which is a framework on which to get all of this work done. And so once again, it's something that we don't have to invent because it exists. And it's really just a way to manage all of the human capital. We have a weekly meeting rhythm that's clear, and we know who owns what. It's a fundamental way of operating your business.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a very visual person, and I think examples help. So, for example, rocks are projects that you have on a quarterly basis that you set. And what's really great is, well, instead of me saying it, you talk about it, and then I've got a couple of examples that I could give deck builders to put that into practice.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really important to understand is we really help you get better at three things. The first is vision, and that's really about getting you and your leadership team 100% on the same page with where we're going and how we're going to get there. Second is our traction, which to us means that we're getting you and your leadership team, 100% clear on the vision. But then we can go out and wherever you look in your company, you see people actually executing on that vision. And then healthy just means we're making you guys a more cohesive, open, honest, functional team that likes to work together. And so rocks are just one piece or one of the tools in the toolbox, because there are a million things that we could focus on. But as you know, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And so what we help you do is we help you build a giant list of things that we could do this quarter. And then we help you whittle that down to the 3 to 7 things that you must do this quarter. And those become our rocks for the quarter. And that, the rocks analogy comes from Stephen Covey with his, cylinder and the rocks and the pebbles and the sand and the water. And the idea is if you put those in the jar in the wrong order, they don't all fit. And so we help you prioritize and focus on the most important things first. And then all the other things fit if you put the rocks in first. And so rocks are just a tool. Essentially, they're your biggest priorities for the next 90 days. And we help you figure out what those are.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds so simple. It's like, what do I need a system for with that? But I was talking to Lyn about the intangible benefits too. And some of those are, again, the ownership, the team coming together, so like your salesperson, your, director of ops, you as the CEO, so on and so forth, like the folks that are accountable for different departments within the organization, all kind of having a say on what the business needs in order to move forward closer to that vision. Because, like, I'm not always right as the business owner, and my stuff could be subjective. And it's really nice to kind of see, oh, actually, yes, like that idea that you have is really going to help from a lens that I wasn't seeing. And I would say what's really nice about it, another intangible benefit, is really being a part of the business's growth. So after each quarter, you go over everything and you see what you've accomplished. And that is really powerful because the people that are on that call are the ones that made that happen. And it's really great for them to get that feeling of success, like you do as the business owner. So
not only success, but the feeling of being heard and like your voice matters and like I remember before EOS, I remember one of my employees telling me, "Hey, Lyn, we're really smart too. We have good ideas too." And me, I'm just bulldozed through everything. And there's a quote that I love, and I'm going to butcher the quote just a little, and I don't know who to attribute it to, so I apologize. But the quote is, "The feeling of being heard and the feeling of being loved are so similar that most people can't tell the difference." And when you hear your team and when they feel heard and when you guys build an open and honest culture where you trust each other enough to be able to say the hard thing, to enter the danger and to have some healthy conflict, man, that's the way that you build a great business. Because when you trust each other enough, you have the healthy conflict, then you can have, that healthy debate. And then when we make a decision, then we can commit to it. And then when we commit to it, we can hold each other accountable because everybody had their say. It's hard to hold people accountable who don't really have a voice in the decision. Or, I've heard people say, "Oh, I didn't have any, that wasn't my decision," But when we do it together, we buy in and it becomes ours and not just yours.
Yeah, that's so good. Well said. Very well said. Well, let's talk a little bit about let's kind of compare, right? So what does a business look like when it's still being run from the owner's head.
Yeah, that's tough. There's a lot of ways to look at that. I would say, kind of thinking back to my own business, I would come into the office in the morning. I was afraid to look at my email. I knew there was a disaster in there every day, because we weren't good enough at getting things done. We were always a little behind. We didn't have clear priorities. Everything went through my phone, or we had 100 different ways to connect with me. So some people messaged me on Facebook Messenger, some on my phone, some through email, some through a different email. It was chaos. And my team, great people, just I didn't guide them and I didn't lead them well enough. I didn't coach them well enough. I didn't get them to buy into our vision, and they didn't understand where, it was in my head. It was all in my head, and they didn't know where we were going. So I suppose that's probably true for a lot of businesses out there. In a lot of ways, we're winging it, don't really have clear priorities. We do feel a little bit alone, like, we're the only one here who cares. And part of that is because we haven't given them a chance to. We haven't gotten them to help build the vision with us and be a part of it. And when you build that, when you build your core values together and your core target together and your core focus together and your 3-year picture together and your 1-year plan together and your 1-year goals together, and then your 90-day rocks together, guys, now it's us. And now we're a team. And now, when we're putting the right people in the right seats, like, I'm going to jump over to like the accountability chart for just a moment. People understand what their role is, and we ask them to take extreme ownership of their seat. And then we map out the 4 or 5 things that they need to think about every second, every minute, every hour of every day. And then we show them what winning looks like in that role. Here's what it looks like to win here. Here's how to do it really well with our SOPs and procedures. But here's how I'm going to hold you accountable. And here's your scorecard. And here's your metrics that you have to hit. And so it is just a system of getting things done. It's a system of holding people accountable. It's a system of setting our goals. And quite frankly, it's a system that'll help you achieve anything you want in your business. And I tell my clients in the very beginning, when we build it out, I'm like, you guys have to be really careful what you ask for, because with this process, we're going to get it.
Yeah. I think it's also a system of transparency too, and when you talk about, I can't remember how you phrased it, but, having the rough conversations, every relationship I've had in general, if you're not being honest and saying the things that are uncomfortable, you're not growing in that relationship. And so I think it's really great when the other, team members can come to the table and be like, well, I'm like, give me pushback as a business owner. That makes me feel like they really care. And I respect that,
But we as owners have to make sure that we give them a healthy and trusting place to do that. Because if they do that and they get in trouble, they will never do it again.
Yeah.
If they bring you something and say, hey, we've got a problem over here, and you don't do anything about it or you dismiss it, they will never bring it again. And so we have to build a culture where everyone on your team is willing to raise their hand and say, guy, I've got a problem. There's a problem here. And I want to share that with you. This could be better, and it needs to be better. And they've got to feel like you've got their back and agree that, yes, that is a problem. Yes. What are we going to do about it? Let's dig in. What's causing it? Let's discuss the possible solutions, and then let's move to an actual solution. So we have to build a culture where that's possible. Because if you don't, man, it's a lonely place sitting up there on your own trying to make all these decisions.
Yeah. Someone really close to me is struggling with their job because it's not clear what they should be doing, and it seems to change every day. And so how can you be successful when you don't even know what the parameters for success look like? That's just uncomfortable, and people feel hopeless. They're like, well, it doesn't really matter what I do because you're going to change it, day by day, based off of your mood.
Yeah. That happens a lot in business. But the idea here is that we get really clear on the major functions of our business, and we get really clear that these are the things that have to happen. this is who's responsible for them. And sometimes there's going to be gaps there. I got to be honest. You're going to be sitting in multiple seats. We got to just make clear what those seats are, what the roles and responsibilities are. And then we got to mark down that, hey, that's an issue. That's a problem. That's not going to be sustainable. And so how and when will we solve that? It just goes on our issues list, and we tackle these things every quarter. And so one of the things that I think is really important that people need to understand here is that doing this once is easy. Doing this a couple of times is easy. Doing this consistently over time, having a weekly level 10 meeting where you're getting in and you're looking at your scorecard and your rocks and your team and your issues every single week, and having a quarterly where you really digging deep on what happened last quarter, getting back on the page with our vision, and then building a new plan. All of that is easy to do once, hard to do consistently. And I think that's where somebody like me as an EOS implementer comes in and plays a huge role of showing up and holding you accountable to doing that work.
That's exactly what I was talking about in a coaching session that I had the other day. I was talking about you, and that's what I was saying. I was like, like you try and do it on your own, and you're kind of like running around like a chicken with your head cut off. It's crazy how that happens. The accountability is really great. We've got a comment here. So Bobby says, April has built such a great culture at DBM, so much so that I always include my name in the anonymous surveys. We love you, Bobby.
I love it.
He also said, truth in advertising. I was not a fan of EOS when I was introduced to it. How do you get people to embrace it?
Well, I think part of that is, when you sit through a quarterly or even a level 10 meeting and you see how much more effective they can be than your regular meetings, I think it's super powerful. And I actually had I'm going to look it up here really quick because I had a session this week, and there was a new team member in the session. And I want to read you their feedback after the session because I think it was really powerful to see. Give me 1 second. I want to pull that up. Sure. How do we get people to buy in? I think giving them a voice, getting them to understand that we want to hear from you. We believe in you. We want to hear the challenges, obstacles. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear all of those good things. There was a team member yesterday, and his feedback at the end, he said, what I loved about today's session was the structure of EOS. He said he had been in similar situations at Microsoft and in other places where they were trying to figure something out. And this process is way more effective. And so, he was talking about in terms of getting to a decision about what to do next. He said he really loved that about the process. And so there is something for everyone, and each of us are going to find something else that we love in EOS. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, the job of the visionary is to get team buy-in. And we do that by asking you to do a quarterly state of the company address where you share with the team, where have we been, where are we right now, and where we're going. And we share with them our core values, and we use our core values to hire and fire and review and reward and recognize. And so we're really always pushing this culture thing. And it sounds more complicated than it is, but it's really simple to get people to buy into this process when you give them a voice and you hear what they say and you make them a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Love it. I want to give some examples. So I was starting to talk about the rocks a little bit. And you mentioned the scorecard. And so I don't know if a lot of people know what that is. But do you want to talk about that for a second, actually, before I give some examples?
Sure. You want to talk about the scorecard?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what the scorecard is. The scorecard is a weekly scorecard of 5 to 15 numbers that give you an absolute pulse on your business. And what I mean by that is you need to be able to be on your deserted island with your cabana boy or cabana girl and bringing you a frosty beverage. And you need to be able to look at a sheet of paper or a spreadsheet, and you need to have an absolute pulse on your business. That scorecard needs to tell you, hey, are we winning or are we losing this week? Is sales having a good week or a bad week? Is marketing having a good week or a bad week? Is operations having a good week or a bad week? Is finance having a good week or a bad week? Are employees happy? Are our customers happy? And can we make payroll on Friday, right? And if you can get that down to just a handful of numbers, that scorecard does something really interesting. It tells you the truth, and it tells you the truth before the profit and loss statement does. The profit and loss statement is a review mirror, right? It tells you about a problem after the money's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The scorecard tells you, heck, it gives you 13 chances a quarter to get it right. It gives you 4 chances a month to get it right before it hits the profit and loss. So, for a deck builder, you might track, hey, how many estimates did we set? What's our close rate? How many jobs are scheduled? What's our weekly production revenues? What's our gross margin per job? Do we have any money in collections or any follow-ups we need to make, right? And so through each department, what we really want to do there is figure out which numbers tell us if that department is having a good week or a bad week. I want you to run numbers. When you feel like you're slammed or whatever, that's one thing. But when your close rate drops to 20%, I want that check engine light to come on, and I want you to go, oh man, we got an issue here. And if you measure your numbers, you'll be able to see the drop in revenue before the drop in revenue happens. You'll be able to predict the rise in revenue before the rise in revenue happens. You'll be able to predict problems before they actually hit the bottom line, and you'll have some time to recover. So what a scorecard is ultimately is the check engine light for your business. Of course, when the check engine light comes on, you could keep driving the car if you want. It's a really bad idea. But what it does is it gives you an opportunity to plug that sucker into the diagnostic and say, hey, what's really wrong here? Why aren't we hitting these numbers?
And that's such a good example of getting your business out of your head. I love the analogy of being on a desert island and being able to have a pulse on what's going on instead of after the fact. It's so powerful. And the word is proactive, Yeah, go
If
ahead.
you only look at your numbers once a year, that's a disaster. If you only look at it once at a quarter, that's potential disaster. It's too late. It's already happened. The money's already gone. The problem's already occurred. The sales already didn't happen. But every week you get a chance to spot, hey, is our sales guy being proactive this week? Have we made the 10 proactive calls we need to make? Do people owe us money? All of those things we see when they happen, it allows us to jump right in and take action.
Mm-hmm. Somebody, okay, here we go. Haney's here. Haney Construction. How do you handle situations where peeps that you've mentioned taken to multiple shows and introduced to your great contacts to help raise them up in the industry, leave, and then try to hijack?
Yeah, that's a difficult one because it's happened to me several times. I said to a friend once, I was telling him all the training I was putting my team through, and he said, aren't you afraid that you're going to teach him everything you know when he leaves? And I said, no, I'm a lot more afraid that I'm going to teach him nothing and he stays. And so it's really important that we train our team and we build them up. And this will allow you to have a process in place. If you build that system, that you can pop another person right in their spot because you've already got it built. You know exactly what they need to do. You know exactly what measurables they are. You might have to get them up to speed, but as you build the culture here and in your company, I think the more culture we have, the more people buy into the vision, the more they can see that there's an opportunity for them to grow here. Because if they think there's a ceiling above them, then of course they would look at another opportunity. But if they see opportunity here inside of your company, that's the only way I think that we can, more consistently keep them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. It does happen. But we got to build a culture here they want to be in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes a compliment, I guess, too.
I thought it was a nice compliment when two of our clients stole two of us employees. I was not happy about it, but I will tell you, I helped both of them get the job. Mm-hmm. I did everything in my power to help them grow so that I could bring the next person in and help them grow. I knew we were a stepping stone to bigger and better things. We weren't a giant agency, and we had limits based on how big we were. And so when those opportunities came for those people, One of them, for example, when the new company called me and they asked me, why should we hire her? And I said, no, no, no. You need to tell me why you're good enough for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them to describe why she would even want to go there. And I let them know she's amazing. You'd be lucky to have her. Tell me why I should help her get this job. And so I think that's really important. From a business standpoint, maybe one of the dumbest things I ever did, but from a human standpoint, it's one of the best things I ever did.
Right.
I had employees move on to new places, make double or triple what they were making here, buy homes, start their lives. I'm so happy for them, and we're still friends.
Mm-hmm. So let's get to some examples. Well, first of all, delegation, man, and accountability. So the scorecard, the rocks, to-dos, all of the things that come out of putting this in place. No longer do you have to be accountable for all those things. I mean, yes, ultimately you are the decision maker, but other people can own those things. And it doesn't necessarily even mean that they have to do all of the things that are part of that, project. They just have to own it. So they have to see it through. Certain rocks that you could think of are, our close rate isn't that great. Like we need to improve it by like 5%. What system, we're going to put this system in place that is composed of, revising our script, our follow-up, whatever it is, like multiple things that make up that project that are going to help us get closer to that goal. And then even just creating certain SOPs, a framework for the SOPs could be a nice rock. And again, what's nice about that is you're allocating certain, non-billable time essentially to certain, team members to move those things forward. And it's nice, man, instead of you having to own it all to, delegate it to other folks to do.
I think it's really important to, and again, I'll give you an example. One of my team members came to me and said, hey, I have a friend who's leaving another agency. She is their director of operations. We should get her. And I said, bring her on board. And I hired her immediately. We onboarded her well. We sent some, we found out that her son loved Pokemon, and we sent some gifts to her house for him. And, we tried to make her really special. And then we failed to help her understand where she was going to be valuable here. And roughly 30 to 60 days later, she came to me and said, Lyn, I'm leaving. I don't feel valuable here, because I honestly didn't know what her role was going to be when she came. This was pre-EOS, just so you know. Mm-hmm. We tried to put this thing in place, and we didn't know what her role was. And I didn't coach her very well, and I didn't spend enough time with her. And those are all really important things to give your employees direction. And when you give somebody a rock for the quarter, it's one of those things that now I understand what my biggest priorities for the next 90 days. A rock is ultimately your biggest priority. And so this is the thing, in addition to your regular job, here's something that you can own. And yes, you own it. You have to push it over the finish line. Doesn't mean you have to do it all. You can get help, or like maybe there's some graphic design involved and you're not a graphic designer. So you assign that to your graphic design team, or maybe there's some copy that needs to be written and you assign it to your copy team, but you are ultimately responsible for this rock, this thing that helps move us forward. And I think it's really important to understand that if we're not growing, we're dying. There is no middle ground. There is no just, kind of floating or staying, in one place. And so I think it's really important to understand that the rocks are the piece that help you grow each quarter. It helps you take that next step in building the business you really want. Now, scorecard, that's how you operate your business today, right? Mm-hmm. But the rocks, they're the piece that help move you forward each quarter to help feel like we're making progress.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. So yeah, I just kind of want to, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on accountability and what that really
Lots.
looks like when it's healthy and not
I
just
have a lot. I have
the
a lot of
owner getting
those.
frustrated. All
Yeah, I'm getting excited. Let me talk about
right,
that.
cool. It's heating up around here.
It is difficult to hold people accountable. I know in my agency I struggled in the beginning because, again, we want to be a nice person, and it's hard to. I had people I wasn't sure what they were doing, and I wasn't sure if they were getting it done, and I didn't really have a good way to tell. And we put EOS in place, which gave people structure, tasks, scorecards, and measurables. And so in EOS, there are ways that I can hold people accountable. Okay, I can hold people accountable to live our core values. So we have a tool. It's called the People Analyzer, and we put people in it every quarter, and we say, hey, does this person consistently live our core values? Most of the time, some of the time, or rarely. And so I can hold people accountable to that. 2, I can hold them accountable to the roles and responsibilities in the accountability chart. So here are the 5 things that you are supposed to be focused on. Do you get it? Do you want it? Do you have capacity to do that well? So I'm checking on that every quarter. I also can hold you accountable to hitting your scorecard metrics. These are the numbers that we agreed that needed to be hit every week, and you just haven't been hitting them. And 4, I can hold them accountable to any rocks we've assigned. And so what I've done here, not me, but what EOS has done here is we've taken away the ambiguity of whether or not somebody's doing a good job. And not only do we know, but they know. They know whether or not they're doing a good job because they understand how they're going to be measured. That's a gift to every employee, is to let them know here's exactly what you need to focus on. Here's exactly how to do that well. And here's exactly how you're going to be measured. What a gift that is. And now as the employee, I don't have to wait around for you to pat me on the back. I'm hitting my numbers. I know I'm crushing it. That's a good feeling.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, for an overwhelmed business owner, what's maybe maybe the first EOS concept that they should understand?
When we install EOS, we install it with traction first and vision second. So when we do the install of EOS, it's over 3 sessions. But in the first session, we teach you 5. We call them 5 focus state tools. We teach you the concept of hitting the ceiling and 5 leadership abilities that'll help you bust through the ceilings in your business. Things like the ability to simplify, the ability to delegate, ability to predict, the ability to systemize, the ability to structure. Then we move on and we help you build your accountability chart. And the accountability chart is a snapshot of what your company should look like 6 to 12 months from now. It's a forward-looking tool. And so we say, hey, based on where we think we're going, what does our accountability chart need to look like? And then we, fill in the roles and responsibilities, put the right people in the right seats. Then we help you set your first set of rocks so you can go out and actually make progress this quarter. We teach the level 10 meeting pulse. And then, of course, we take the first cut at your scorecard. So those tools are the focus day tools. And then over the next 2 sessions, we build your vision. And we build your vision by answering 8 questions together. And those 8 questions are: what are your core values? What is your core focus? What is your core target? What is your marketing strategy? What is your 3-year picture, your 1-year plan, your next set of rocks, and your issues list? And at that point, you have learned the 5 foundational tools of EOS, which is the VTO, the accountability chart, the rocks, the meeting pulse, and the scorecard. That's the 80-20 here of EOS. If you do nothing else but get those in place, those are the foundation of EOS. We've got some other great questions in here, and I want to make sure that I'm answering the question properly. I don't know if now's the right time, but I want to make sure that we're getting Haney a good answer.
Yeah. He's let's see. What are you up to over here, Kevin? He's called the handsome Viking, by the way.
Nice. I'm my family's from Norway, so we're a lot of Norwegian in my family.
Oh, cool. To be clear, I want to elevate everyone and to elevate what's possible, FBO all, especially for the HOs and the attempted hijacking that I'm asking about.
Yeah, the attempted hijacking, it is hard to prevent that. Certainly, there's some I mean, non-competes aren't really enforceable these days. Unfortunately, I don't believe. I'm not a lawyer. I would talk to an employment lawyer about that. So, that's something that we may look at. But we just have to build a culture here where people want to stay. And the truth is, there's no way to insulate yourself from people who really want opportunity. I wish there was an easy answer for you on how do we stop it or how do we prevent it. In some industries, maybe there's I don't know. April and I are in a big group together, and there is a standard. There's a common practice there that if you steal an employee from another place, you are kicked out of the group. That's just not something we do in our community. I don't know how to enforce that in your industry. Ultimately, I think there's not a whole lot we can do other than to try and build a great culture and try and keep people and try and understand what they're, where they really want to go in life. It's a hard question. I don't know how to answer it.
Yeah. I think that people are people too, right? And, it is unfortunate. Kevin's a really nice dude. And I think that when you're constantly putting yourself out there and helping people, unfortunately, there's going to be some folks that, are a little selfish, but I'd rather be able to help, one person than to be worried about the people that, might have bad intentions,
Yeah. And I think that's the approach we took. I had a client on the phone. They said, hey, where can I find somebody like, my employee's name? And she was on the call, and then he said what he was going to pay. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I just texted her and I said, are you interested? And she said, I got to be honest, I kind of am. And I'm like, let me help you get it. And so we made it happen because I knew I couldn't match the salary. She wanted the opportunity. I wanted to help her get it. And then, we're friends today. I wanted to make sure that happened. Did I love it? No. Am I glad it happened? Yeah, I think so. I'm really happy for her. Now she has a home. Now she's got, she's in a better position today than she was when she was with me. So I'm very happy.
Yeah. It's how you want to feel when you put your head down on the pillow every night, right?
Yeah, I think there's a book I read a while back. Basically, it's about positive intelligence. And one of the things that it talked about is, when you face a situation like this, how do I turn this? This is a really good question to ask yourself. How do I turn this in 3 years from now? How do I turn this event into the best thing that's ever happened to me? How do I take this, poaching or hijacking or taking, how do I make this the best thing that's ever happened to me? What am I going to learn from it? How am I going to grow from it? And what are my intentions? So those are the 3 questions that I usually ask myself. And those 3 questions have really helped me through a lot in my life. Pretty difficult struggle on some business stuff last year that I sat down and I'm like, man, if this worst case scenario thing happens, what am I going to learn? How am I going to grow? And what am I going to do next? And I mapped all that out. And so when it happened, and it did, I was ready. And I grew from it. And I gained something from that I didn't know that I needed and didn't know that I had. And that was more empathy for myself that this is not my fault. And I can carry that with me a long time, that thing that happened was not my fault. And so a little empathy for myself in it was what came out of it. So it's just something to think about. I don't, it's a little woo woo for a lot of people, but it was helpful for me.
Yeah. Well, whether you believe in God or just the universe, I think that there's a reason why certain things happen. And I think the way that, that book taught you and the way that you're thinking is just really taking an optimistic approach to be like, well, this happened. Like, how can I, turn, lemons into lemonade, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to EOS. I hope that this has been really helpful for some folks to really just take a moment to really look at your business and figure out how you can get it out of your head and systematize it a little bit. So for anybody that is just like, where do I start? Like, what are they even talking about? Where do you think is a good place for them to go?
I have 2 really good places for you to start. If you're the visionary I think the best book for you to kind of listen to, I would listen to it, the audiobook. It's called Get a Grip. It's by Mike Payton and Gino. It's a great book on, it's kind of the fable of EOS. So it's like a story of EOS. And I think for a lot of visionaries, that's easier. It's an easier read. If you want the nuts and bolts and the guts of EOS, there's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. I've got one on my shelf up here I can show you, but that's a great book, and that's kind of the EOS Bible. It is the how-to of EOS, and you certainly can do this yourself. If you're in a position where you're like, man, I just want somebody to come help us with it, there are other options with me or other implementers that I can connect you with. But if you just want to learn more about EOS, you can come to my website, send me a message. I'll help you understand it. Jump on a call. We'll talk about it. But those two books are kind of the really good introduction to EOS if you're into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I really recommend if you really want to look at your business from a different lens and figure out how to make it stronger, to dive into one of these books. Or I'm sure folks could probably hit you up on your social if they maybe have any questions.
Of course. One of my core values is help first, and so I'm a giver. You need 30 minutes, you need an hour, and you want to talk about something in your business, give me a call. Happy to jump on a call with you, schedule something, and we'll talk through it. Been coaching businesses for years and years and years. Have a bunch of different skill sets that I can help you with. So please reach out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love it. And then you also have a discovery call that, people could use this link, lynaskin.com/EOS15, right?
Yeah. And that's just a really simple call for us to just get to know each other and help me understand your business needs. At that point, I can, we can make a decision on whether or not you do what we call our free 90-minute meeting. And I'll get with you and your leadership team, and I'll show you the entire EOS system. I'll learn about you. You'll learn about me. I'll show you EOS and the tools, and then I'll show you what the process looks like to implement it. Ultimately, what we're looking for is this a good fit for you? Secondly, am I a good fit for you? Because if I'm not, I happen to know I'm not for everybody. I happen to know about 800 other implementers, and I can connect you with somebody right in your backyard. Maybe something either I'm kind of a mid-range EOS price-wise. There's some higher, there's some lower, and so there's some financial things there that we can talk about on who's a good fit for you. But ultimately, my goal would be to help you get a grip on your business, whether it's with me or somebody else or self-implementing. I just want to help.
Yep. And I back that 200%, 1000%. Lyn really, he's a good human. I'm glad to know you. I really am. And glad to have you here, and would absolutely recommend anybody here to reach out to him and just have a conversation. That's it. He'll point you in the right direction no matter what. I think you and I kind of do the same. We really want to help. And if it's not a good fit, we'll let you know. We'll point you in the right direction no matter what. So lynaskin.com/EOS15. Take advantage of it, man. Get some new perspective. Right? Figure out how to, be a shareholder in your business eventually, right? As opposed to having create a job for yourself where everybody has to go to you. It gets exhausting.
Yeah. Again, the idea here is we can get anything you want from your business using this framework of simple tools. Again, it's not magic beans or silver bullets. It's work. But it is simple, real world, practical tools that have been around for 100 years. It's not magic. It's just real world tools effectively implemented will help you get more from your business and ultimately help you live more of what we call the EOS life. And that is doing what you love with people you love, making a difference in people's lives, being appropriately compensated, and having time for other interests. That's the life that all of us want to have.
Love it. Well, the microphone should drop there, but Kevin had one more comment here. He said he's nicknamed me. He's got a couple nicknames for me, or at least he knows what my real nickname is, which people that know what my real nickname is have my heart, man. So he knows what my real nickname is, but he came up with Spunky Brewster a few episodes ago too.
I
He
love
said,
it.
"Thank you for today's guest, rad dude, and speaking my language, at least one of my languages."
Love it. Love it.
Both you guys are rad dudes, so glad to
Hey,
have you both here.
I love expanding my network of people that I know. I love being surrounded by cool dudes.
Mhm.
Reach out, let's chat.
Yeah,
No obligation or anything. Just love to get to know you and say
yeah,
hello. And feel free to reach out and we'll chat.
yeah,
April, I'm so excited to hang out with you today.
yeah.
I'm excited. You're going to join me for dinner in Miami, I hope.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, who's going to
Okay.
pass up free steak, but the opportunity to hang out with you too?
Yeah, come. It's going to be good. I got a handful of close friends and clients there, and
Yeah.
can't wait to see you.
Yeah, so week of the 20th, I think I'll be in Miami if
Yeah.
anybody wants to meet up. And I'm trying to recruit, so I am going to get nitrox certified so I can go on a 3-tank dive trip with sharks while I'm down there.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I'll watch you do that from a distance.
I
That
know.
sounds great.
I posted it to the group and it was crickets,
Uh,
like trying to invite people.
there's some people in one of my other groups that scuba. Maybe I'll have to connect you to another group that I'm in. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that sounds amazing. Just I don't know if that's for me. I'll fly a plane. I'll fly a plane.
Ooh.
I'm a little afraid of the water.
Yeah. It's a whole different world under there, man. It's
Yeah,
quite a privilege to see it.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Peace and love.
Anything?
Peace and love from Kevin. And hey, yo, Lyn, my phone receives messages as well. You're welcome to reach out to me as well.
Very good. I will. I'll drop my phone number in the chat, or we'll send it. Maybe you can connect me and send my phone
Yeah.
number over.
Well, here, let me post it here. Go ahead and give it to me.
Okay. Just my personal cell phone number, 337-458-1222.
1222.
Don't
Okay.
sit me in any spam databases, but you can call me and text me and we'll connect.
Cool. So this is right.
That's correct.
337-458-1222. For those listening, I've got it up on the screen here. So, all right, man. Another successful episode here. Lyn, great to have you. Thank you for all your wisdom and for just really opening your arms to help point everybody in the right direction. Really appreciate
Beautiful.
you.
Thanks so much, April. I appreciate you. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Hey, deck building community. Enjoyed the show? Hit subscribe and give us your thoughts. We love hearing from you. Ready to level up your business? Visit deckbuildermarketers.com. Check out our services and let's build your success together. Don't forget to download our free guides. They're a game changer. Thanks for tuning in to We Love Deck Builders and see you on the next episode.